4.3 Measures of Fit and Prediction Accuracy. Having estimated a linear regression, you might wonder how well that regression line describes the data. Does the regressor account for much or for little of the variation in the dependent variable? Are the observations tightly clustered around the regression line, or are they spread out? The big R squared and the standard error of the regression measure how well the ordinary least squares regression line fits the data. The big R squared ranges from 0 and 1 and measures the fraction of the variance of big Y sub I that is explained by big X sub I. The standard error of the regression measures how far big Y sub I typically is from its predicted value. The R squared, the regression R squared, is the fraction of the sample variance of big Y explained by or predicted by big X. The definitions of the predicted value and the residual, see key concept 4.2, allows us to write the dependent variable big Y bar as the sum of the predicted value big Y sub I hat plus the residual U sub I hat. Big Y sub I equals big Y sub I hat plus U sub I hat is equation 4.11. In this notation, the big R squared is the ratio of the sample variance of big Y hat to the sample variance of big Y. Mathematically, the big R squared can be written as the ratio of the explained sum of squares to the total sum of squares. The explained sum of squares, ESS, is the sum of squared deviations of the predicted value big Y sub I hat from its average, and the total sum of squares, capitals TSS, is the sum of square deviations of big Y sub I from its average. The explained sum of squares equals the sum from I equals 1 to n of open big Y sub I hat minus big Y bar, close squared, equation 4.12. Equation 4.13, capitals T, S, S, the total sum of squares equals the sum of sum of I equals 1 to n of open big Y sub I minus big Y bar, close squared, equation 4.13. Equation 4.12 uses the fact that the sample average ordinary least squares predicted value equals big Y bar proven in appendix 4.3. The big R squared is the ratio of the explained sum of squares to the total sum of squares. Big R squared equals the explained sum of squares over the total sum of squares. Equation 4.13. Alternatively, the big R squared can be written in terms of the fraction of the variance of big Y sub I, not explained by big X sub I. The sum of squared residuals, capitals SSR, is the sum of squared ordinary least squares residuals. Capitals SSR, the sum of squared residuals, is the sum of from I equals 1 to n of U sub I hat squared, equation 4.15.